A lot of people try and dispute this fact when people word it as, there has been a Zelda game every single year since 2013, so instead I'm going to word it like this. We have had something new to do with the Zelda franchise every single year since 2013, whether it be a remake, a port, a brand new 3D or 2D game, or even a spin-off like the Hyrule Warriors games. Heck, if Cadence of Hyrule released in another year where no Zelda games were released, I would class it in this trend. I see a lot of people also dispute this fact, most recently with Age of Calamity, but I just don't see it. The game was developed by another studio, yes, but saying this, they also had clear help from the in-house Zelda team as they mentioned numerous times on the lead up to the game. So how would that be much different to something like the co-developed Capcom games? Anyway, personal rant over, as I'm sure I've already said something wrong to annoy people. Feel free to tell me if I did get something wrong, by the way, because it is just a genuine question, not just something I want to start the video with. Anyway, the point is that with Breath of the Wild sequel being delayed around 2 weeks back now, it's important that we look at which games have released since 2013 yearly to see what kind of trends have been set by the Zelda team. So in 2013 they released A Link Between Worlds and Wind Waker HD, a fact I'll come back to later. In 2014 Hyrule Warriors was released. 2015 saw the release of Triforce Heroes and Majora's Mask 3D, which was another port or remaster in the space of 2 years. In 2016, Twilight Princess HD was released. 2017 was the big year for the franchise. Breath of the Wild released after 6 years in the oven, and it definitely didn't disappoint. At least not critically anyway. 2018 saw the more controversial release of Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition, which in my opinion is the closest that we've seen of this trend dying. 2019 we saw the release of both Link's Awakening, the first real 2D entry in the series since 2013, even if it was a remake, and the release of Cadence of Hyrule, one of the most underrated games in the expanded series as a whole. To finish it off, you probably know the rest. 2020 we were given Age of Calamity, and in 2021 we finally got a port of Skyward Sword. So that begs the question of what is in the works for this year. I'll begin by saying that there is a very large chance that the Zelda team straight up have nothing planned. Breath of the Wild 2 being delayed probably around 6 months from when it was supposed to go out could easily mean that this was something that they weren't expecting and weren't ready for another game to go out this year. I mean, do the Zelda team really care if this trend is broken? Sure, it makes them and Nintendo more money, but isn't it okay to miss out on 1 year out of almost 10 when there's been a new game in the extended franchise? Realistically, I think yes. So while I am optimistic that there will be another Zelda game this year, I want you guys and girls to know, going ahead in this video, I'm not 100% sure that we'll even be getting a brand new game in the series this year, whether it be a port or a new game, but I would like to discuss possibilities as it seems like a hot button topic ever since the delay came about. So let's talk about some possibilities, starting with some stuff that wouldn't hype people up quite as much in my opinion. In 2020, a trailer for Age of Calamity dropped out of literally nowhere. Very few people had the idea of taking what was given to us in the original Hyrule Warriors and expanding on that a ton. Call it a prequel to Breath of the Wild and voila, you have a spin-off in a series that we didn't even know was going to be a part of the Zelda series anymore, as I'm pretty sure most people saw the original Hyrule Warriors as something of a one and done situation. So this came as a massive shock to many people. You know what would be an even bigger shock than another game in a spin-off series that's already been established? If another team completely is working on a spin-off game right now, maybe it could be like a turn-based RPG with Zelda characters. Maybe that Sheik game could finally come into fruition. Maybe a different style of action game. There are all manners of different genres that Zelda could fit into with the correct studios behind them, though I don't really feel as if I'm qualified enough to talk about potential spin-offs. Maybe another day when I feel slightly more inclined. Now, one of the pieces of the trend we discussed earlier was that Wind Waker HD released in 2013. Now, the Zelda team have almost set down something of a rule when it comes to their HD ports at least. So, the original GameCube Wind Waker released in 2003, with its HD variant on the Wii U releasing in 2013, 10 years after its initial release on PAL and NA. Along with this, Twilight Princess on the GameCube and Wii was released in 2006. Guess what? The port of the game was released in 2016, and the new addition to this somewhat fresh trend is Skyward Sword HD, with the original game releasing in 2011 and its HD variant being unleashed upon the world just last year, in 2021. What we haven't seen just yet is if the Zelda team will want to port them to the next system every 10 years or so this is where the delay of Breath of the Wild 2 could come in. Imagine they planned for Wind Waker HD to be released next year to coincide of 10 years since the HD port went live. Considering porting over a game from the Wii U wouldn't be too much work, the team could have outsourced a company to quickly work through it, which could mean that we know what Grezzo has been working on for the last couple of years since Link's Awakening. Though if a section of the Zelda team were there just to have a port of each game ready, that wouldn't surprise me either. Out of everything I'll suggest, and I have suggested already in this video, this is probably the most plausible. Porting games still takes some effort, but it would take considerably less effort than making a brand new game or doing really anything else. So while I'm still doubtful, I will say that I'm cautiously optimistic that we'll get Wind Waker HD on Switch this year. Considering the Wii U eShop closure coming pretty soon as well, it would be pretty good timing. But I've already done a full video on the closure, so I won't bore you on all of the details in another video on the topic. Twilight Princess HD being put on the Switch by itself is the next possibility, of course. I don't think it's quite as likely as Wind Waker being put on the Switch, and I think the Zelda team will see it that way as well, if they're wondering which one they should put on the console first. Though a pack-in with both games isn't completely out of the question. We'd just have to see if Nintendo felt a little more greedy and would rather have us fans paying 2 full price totals for games that technically came out 10 years ago, assuming the games do end up just being straight ports of ports. So while I still think there's a chance they will be packed in together, could I see them doing Wind Waker then waiting for a year when they have nothing planned and releasing Twilight Princess on the Switch or the next system then? Definitely. If they want to keep the yearly streak going that heavily, then at that point they might as well try and draw out all of those games that are definitely going to be made eventually. Not to mention, selling them for a larger price rather than packing them in together would be a great motivator for a company. Also means more sales of 2 sets of games, so while I have some amount of hope that they'd do both games at the same time, as I've discussed in past videos as well, I will say that I'm slightly more pessimistic when it comes to something as time sensitive as getting a game out by the end of the year. The final possibility is a remake of a 2D game coming this year, or a brand new 2D game in the series as a whole. Let's start with the remake idea. I think it's a little too soon. Having another one just 3 years after Link's Awakening release seems just a little too soon, but let's just say that Grezzo started working on the Oracle games, or the Minish Cap straight after Link's Awakening. The game has the same art style for argument's sake, then yes, technically that could probably release at the end of the year. Do I honestly think it's going to happen though? Not really. That also goes for the idea of a brand new 2D game as well. A brand new 2D game in the series would be seen as a massive deal now because of the drought of a truly new one, since Minish Cap really, when you consider that Link Between Worlds basically reused the world from A Link to the Past, and the DS games were kind of seen as 2.5D games. So it has been a very long time. Some people could see that as evidence that it could release sooner than we think, but personally I think they'll want to build up to the next 2D game whenever they end up making one. I could be wrong here though. A little more likely in my opinion is a quick port of Four Swords Adventures to the Switch. Bring online compatibility and you have a game that thousands of people could enjoy with friends. While Adventures isn't the best Zelda game, it is definitely the most overlooked. I think making it online and putting it on the Switch would take very little effort and would be great for fans. An online Zelda game is always fun to have on any console, and we don't actually have that on the Switch yet. Though online versions are usually seen as light versions of real entries in the franchise, so we'll see there. For today, I think that's me done. Okay, so tell me in the comments, what do you think could be this year's Zelda game? Do you think we'll even be getting one, or are you a little more reserved at the minute like me? Do you think I missed any possibilities? If so, let me know in the comment section below and I'll make sure to get down to every single comment and heart them as usual. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed then, please do support me by leaving a like, rating and subscribing as we wait for more Breath of the Wild 2 news. I'll be streaming even more this week, so along with being a part of the 13% of people who are subscribed, you'll get even more content. So thank you a ton if you do. The people you can see on screen right now are my Patreon supporters, and I barely give them all enough recognition. It means a ton to me that people would actually support the channel in this way, especially for as long as someone like Sumji has. So take a look at them. Sumji and Jarweden are especially amazing for being my top paying patrons, and just look at their Triforce coloured names and that Triforce font. Thank you so much for the support, guys. If you'd like to join them, then you can do for as little as £1 or $1.50 a month, and the link to my Patreon is in the description. Along with that link is a link to the rest of my media platforms, so follow me on them to keep in touch with me. Again, thank you so much for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you for a stream if you have your notifications on and would like to watch. I'll see you on Sunday otherwise. For the meantime though, please do stay safe.